Talmor, Shishin Marachi. Talmor is my home. My family have worked the land for generations. My gran says the island does not belong to us, but we belong to the island. And we must be ready, for a great evil is coming, and death follows with it.
Listen and subscribe to the latest season of Undertow, The Harrowing, a Storyglass production presented by Realm, available wherever you get your podcasts.
The thing that I fought tooth and nail to bring my son into is Dungeons and Dragons. That is the ultimate solution to parenthood.
I'm Alexis Ohanian. In my podcast, Business Dad, I'm hoping to open up the conversation about balancing careers and family. I talked to Rainn Wilson. I wanted to learn more about Rainn's advice to play D&D with your kids. Business Dad is available now, so be sure to listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello world, and welcome back to another episode of Thanks for Coming In. I'm your host, Jillian Clare. It has been a while. I'm very sorry. I went on vacation. I went to New York for, 9 days. And I saw my best friend, and it was incredible. I hadn't seen her since the pandemic started. I hadn't seen her since October 2019. So it was incredible to see her in person, and I went to 4 shows, and we went to 2 concerts. I mean, it was nonstop. And then I got back from that trip, and I was so tired, which I think is the opposite of how vacation is supposed to work, because I did so much there. I had meetings, I had all this stuff that I had to do, and friends that I hadn't seen in, almost 3 years. So it was a lot, but it was incredible, and I'm so happy I went, and now I'm already like, okay, when can I get back out there? But I did see 4 shows. I saw, what did I see? Okay, I saw Moulin Rouge right before the latest 3 OG members who were leaving left, and so that was amazing. Aaron Tveit is incredible. I think that's how you say his last name. A friend corrected me at brunch, and I think it's Aaron Tveit. Anyway, his voice is insane. But it was so good and such a fun show, and I definitely cried. But it's pretty easy to make me cry in the theater because I get so emotional seeing people perform that I just automatically start sobbing. What else did I see? I saw Chicago, which was so fun. Pamela Anderson is playing Roxy Hart right now. I think she's still playing it. And, for a woman who has never been on Broadway, I was super impressed by her. And it was fun to see her in that type of role. I mean, she's perfect for that type of role. But it was fun to see her explore that side. And it's funny, when I got back from New York, I watched Pam and Tommy, and I know that I'm pretty sure that she was not happy about that show being made, but it did make me appreciate even more being able to see her on Broadway, and relate to her a little bit more. I saw Birthday Candles, which is a new play, and I'm kind of upset it didn't get any Tony noms, but I'm gonna get over it. I think it's still playing. If you're out in New York, go catch that before it goes, because I was a sobbing mess. I mean, when I say that I was a sobbing mess, I had tears streaming down my face consistently for the last 20 minutes of the show. It did not stop. When it ended, I was there alone. I saw all of these alone. But when it ended, I looked to the woman who was sitting next to me. She was there alone too, and we both looked at each other like, what the hell just happened? What did we just watch? It's just such a it's a touching story, and it's beautifully performed by Deborah Messing. She doesn't leave the stage once the entire show, and that to me is some incredible freaking acting and stamina. Highly suggest. And then I saw another show. What was it? Oh, I saw Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. That's what I saw. I think parents don't realize that it's like a 3-hour play, because during intermission, I'd say like an eighth of the audience left. Because it's a very, very long play. And it's cool. I mean, the magic is awesome. The choreography is beautiful. The story kind of feels like a fever dream. And I know I'm probably late to the party on saying this, but yeah, it feels like a fever dream. But it was a fun show to see, and I'm glad I got to see it, especially now that it's one play instead of two. I don't know that I could have done the two, because that just seems like a lot for such a strange storyline. Anyway, that's my recap on the shows. What else is going on? I'm reading a couple books right now. I'm reading Three Women. I forget who it's by. My best friend had me buy it when we were in New York, and I've been a really bad reader lately. Like, I love reading, but I've been really bad at it lately because I have so many things going on, and I just go through those phases where I can't focus. And this entire year, I've just not been able to focus on reading. I think I've maybe gotten through like 3 books this entire year, which is so unlike me. But I'm reading that right now, and I'm reading it's this book about texting language, and I heard about it from the podcast Girls Gotta Eat, and I think it's called How to Speak in Thumbs, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's called How to Speak. I'm gonna freaking Google this right now. Sorry, guys. And that's a really interesting book. It's cool because there's so many screenshots of text messaging. And you kind of get this overall look of like how we communicate with each other these days, especially in dating. So that's been interesting. It's called Speaking in Thumbs, A Psychiatrist Decodes Your Relationship Text So You Don't Have to, by Mimi Winsberg. And so I've been reading that, and it's really good. And that's it. I think that's all I have for you right now. I've been watching The Staircase. That's on HBO Max, I think. All the streamers make me so confused. You should watch that. Colin Firth as Michael Peterson is blowing my mind. What else? Oh, also Under the Banner of Heaven, because I'm a major Andrew Garfield fangirl. Love him. That's on FX, but I watched it on Hulu. So good. Anyway, let's get to the show. Okay, y'all. Today we have Braeden De La Garza. He is one of the stars of the new Disney Plus series, The Quest. This show is so cool. It's like they took immersive theater and put it on television, and I am here for it. As a person who has been in immersive theater and goes to immersive theater all the time, this is revolutionary. I was so excited to speak to Braeden about this process that they went through. So here's my conversation with Braeden. And welcome to the show, Mr. Braeden De La Garza.
Hello.
Welcome. I'm so excited to talk to you today. I'm so excited for your new show. I think it's going to be so cool. But before we talk about that, I'd love to talk to you a little bit about growing up in Texas and what made you get that acting bug.
Yeah. So, I grew up in Dallas, Texas, which is not the, biggest place for, the arts and entertainment.
Yeah.
It's more oil than anything. But I remember when I was a kid, I was probably 6 or 7. My mom was a big daytime TV watcher. And so I would always sit in bed with her and watch like Army Wives and Desperate Housewives, all the wives
All
shows.
the wives, yeah.
And I remember being a kid and just like watching other kids my age on those shows. And one day it just like clicked to me. I was like, that's not who they actually are. They're playing a character. And I thought it was like the coolest thing ever that was a thing. And I think that's kind of when I first was like, that's something I want to do one day. But as a kid, like everybody, there was like a period of time where I wanted to be like a Marine, and then like a period of time where I wanted to be a baseball player and everything.
For me, it was always I wanted to be a chocolate factory owner and a dolphin trainer at the same time.
At the same time,
Yeah.
That sounds like a good time.
Yeah, right?
But yeah, I think I was in like middle school, probably like 10 years old, and there was like an audition for the school play. I remember it was a play called Promedy, and
I'm sorry. Promedy?
Promedy,
Okay,
yeah.
what is this? Tell me everything.
It was this. It was a play just about a high school prom, and a bunch of stuff goes wrong, and it's just like a little middle school comedy. But I remember even at 10 years old thinking it was strange that we were doing a show where it specifically says we were at a high school prom, but these
Yes.
kids are 10 years old. Uh, but yeah, I remember I went in. I'd never auditioned for anything, and it was, I mean, nothing like the auditions I do now. But I went in and I was really nervous. And I remember I read the script, and immediately following that, I asked the director, who's now a close friend of mine, years later. But I just straight up said, "So am I in the play now?" Like I was like, was that it?" And she had to say no, and I actually didn't end up getting into that
Oh
play.
no.
And I guess I just looked too young to be in prom.
What are the chances? So bizarre.
Um, but yeah, then from there I kept auditioning for little school stuff, and through high school, I did plays and musicals, which were fun. And then I was probably 16, and I kind of decided, everyone's plan was just like, I'm gonna go to high school and act in high school and do shows. Then I'll go to college for theater and do high school
Mhm.
theater, college theater, and then that's when I'll kind of start, the
Mhm.
professional acting is once I graduate college. And I remember it was the night before. In Texas, we do a little thing where it's like you go and you audition for like every college all at one time.
So it's like a
And
showcase of some sort.
yeah, exactly. It's like a college showcase. And I remember I had signed up and like paid to get in and everything. And the night before, I just like wasn't feeling it. I had kind of already started to submit myself on stuff like Actors Access, and I was just like, it just didn't feel. I didn't feel like I should be going to college for theater
Mm.
and doing that whole thing and waiting to. I wanted to like hit the ground running. I remember just like thinking back to like my 7-year-old self watching Desperate Housewives and being like, okay, this was kind of a risk, but I'm glad I'm doing work that's working more towards that.
So you decide to skip the acting college route, which
Mhm.
I think is right for some people. I didn't do it. I'm in college now, finally finishing a degree, but I didn't do the acting college thing. I know some people do and some people don't. It's a really personal choice. Um but what was your next move? Did you say, "Okay, I'm going to move to LA and I'm just going to like go for it?"
So I wanted to. That was like I wanted the second I graduated high school, I wanted to move to LA. But I just didn't have the money. Like I was like, I
Yeah.
don't have the money to get there. And I'm very thankful for my parents and being like, um, you know, we're not gonna bankroll you to do whatever you want. If you want this, you're gonna work hard and you're gonna do it yourself. Which at the time, was like annoying
As a
because
teenager, you're like, "You're ruining my life."
exactly. But no, I'm very happy that they did that because it really taught me a good work ethic, and it makes me appreciate being able to live in LA even more. But I took these classes and I would audition for anything I could find on Actors Access. I didn't have any representation or anything. And it's like I remember the first thing that I ever booked was like the background extra in a local bike shop commercial. And I remember
Amazing.
I called like my entire family. I was like, I am in a commercial.
Like,
I was
I
so
made it.
I was so excited. But yeah, it was like little stuff like that, and then every once in a while, like I would get on something that would have a few lines or something like that. And I booked this movie. It was called Run, Hide, Fight, and it was my first like SAG thing, and I had 6 lines in it, I believe. And from there, I was in wardrobe changing out of costume after I shot my scenes, and another guy, his name's Joel Michaely. I love this man. He was getting into wardrobe, and we started talking, and he looked at me and he was like, "Do you live in LA?" And I was like, "No, I really want to." And he's like, "Oh, well, you should. You have a great look. You need to move to LA, like, now." And I was like, he was just so forward about it that it took me off guard. And he was like, I really like you. And I have a friend. Her name is Danielle Alfiero, and she works in casting for the CW. And I'm going to send her a picture of you and have you audition for a new show that's coming. And I was like,
wow.
What? Like, it was I was blown away by that. And so I remember I drove home from set, like, freaking out. And he called me and said, I didn't get a good picture while you were here. Pull over and take a selfie. And so I literally a selfie of me on the side of the road, like, that I sent to this man, and casting somewhere has it. But
amazing.
I was freaking out. I went home, told my dad about it, and I was sitting on the couch just, like, kind of waiting for a call to see, like, about this audition. And so I get a call from an LA area code, and I freak out and I'm too nervous to answer it. So I just let it go to voicemail. I'm like, I was like, you can just go to voicemail. I'll listen to it and call you back. Thinking it was casting. And I listened to the voicemail, and it is my manager now. His name's Eric Kind. He called me and said, "Hi, my friend Danielle Alfiero sent me a little blurb about you, and I'd really like to meet with you. Are you going to be in LA anytime soon?" And I, like, freaked out. I was like, first I thought the audition that I was going to get was the coolest thing I'd ever experienced. Just, like, getting to audition for something like that.
Yeah.
And then here I have, out of the blue, a manager, a good manager that wants to reach out and have a meeting. And I was just like, it all came out of nowhere. And luckily I had some family that were in LA, and I was actually flying to LA the next week to go spend Thanksgiving with them.
Wow. Good timing.
It all worked out, and I went out and I met with Eric, and he was great. And he was like, I'm really about cultivating new talent, because I don't want you to wait until you've booked something big and then find reps, because they're just going to want to take your money. Like, I'm here for you, and I want us to have a relationship through your whole career. And I was like, that's great. I love that. And I signed with him.
You can shop from anywhere doing pretty much anything. You might shop while working, eating, or even listening to this podcast. And however you shop, we all know and love the thrill of the hunt. But do you also know how to get the thrill of the best deals? Because Rakuten shoppers do. With Rakuten, they get the deals they love with the most savings and cash back. And you can get it too. Start getting cash back at your favorite stores like Sephora, Nike, and even Expedia if you're looking to get some travel in. And getting cash back doesn't mean you have to miss out on sales, because those can just be stacked right on top. It's easy to use and based on a simple idea. Stores pay Rakuten for sending them shoppers, and Rakuten shares the money with you as cash back through PayPal or check. Download the free Rakuten app and never miss a deal. Or go to Rakuten.com to start getting the most bang for your buck. That's Rakuten.
Contained herein are the heresies of Radolf Burntwine, erstwhile monk turned traveling medical investigator. Join me as I uncover the blasphemous truth of a plague-ridden world, that ours is not a loving God, and we are not its favored children. The Heresies of Radolf Burntwine, coming January 2nd, wherever podcasts are available.
And then from there, it was, naively, I was like, well, here, I made it. I'm going to get an audition.
I'm here. Can somebody hire me now?
Yeah, I was like, I'm going to get a huge audition next week. I remember I got an audition for a movie that's coming out. It's called Babylon. And it's like with Brad Pitt and Margot Robbie and all these huge names. It was my first audition I ever got with him. And I found out later, it was a big open call. But I remember I freaked out, and I sent in my audition. And I thought to myself, I was like, well, I'd say my chances are probably like 50-50. Like, I was like, I was so confident that I was gonna I had a good shot at booking my first ever audition for anything.
I mean, confidence, man. That's half the battle. So it's a good thing that you have it.
I was like, oh, I got a pretty good shot at this. And yeah, but even then, I had no credits to my name, and
Yeah.
so it was kind of hard for me to get out for auditions. And I was still submitting myself on Actors Access, and then at a certain point, I booked the Quest, which was its own really interesting story on how that happened. But yeah, and then from there.
I want to get into that in a second, but I do want to touch on the fact that it's such a good story of how you got your manager and how you got out here, because I think a lot of actors, especially newer actors, are hesitant to take those roles that are only like 1 or 2 lines or anything like that, because they're like, well, that's not enough for me.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is that you're not learning, and especially if you're new in this industry, it's best to learn on set.
Yes.
Because you can take 1,000 classes, you can put in all of the work possible, but it's an entirely different thing to be with other actors on set, with directors, with producers, with everything going on. And it's how you build your community, it's how you build these connections, is just being on set. And it doesn't matter if it's 2 lines or you have every line in the whole thing. As long as you're there and you're committed, things will happen. It will lead you to a different point, because now you've met new people who are going to help you, as long as you're like a kind person.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one thing that I realized through just, taking really any role I could get was that the more you're on set and the more comfortable you are on a set, the better you can act, because you're not
Yeah.
focusing on the nerves around it. And so I would tell any young actor, I am a young actor,
People who are younger than you, geez. What are
like
you? Are you Gen Z? Are you millennial? Gen Z?
21. So
you're a Gen Z. Okay.
yeah.
Who's
But
younger than Gen Z? I don't know, but go ahead.
I would tell anyone, just go on set, be an extra. Don't be scared to be in it.
Yeah.
It's just getting familiar with the lingo that's on set. There's so many things that just in how people talk on set that I think you got a big role, and people came up to you, and I mean, just reading a call sheet, all these things that would make
all
me
the
nervous.
things that you need to know prior to getting that big thing.
Yeah.
Because when you do get that big thing, you want to be able to be on set and be a professional and know what you're doing and have some semblance of confidence with all these large sets and things. I don't know who it was. It was Michael Caine. I saw a clip the other day of a actor talking about this and saying he had a friend growing up who or in his early years of acting, that would only take certain roles that spoke to him and that he thought was going to be, life changing. And he would just take every role because he was like, no, I'm learning. And even if it's shit, I had fun making it because this is what I like to do. And I think that's such an important message, because it's so easy to get wrapped up in our brains and think this is what my career needs to look like because this other person had a career like this, where it's just you should just do what you want to do and have fun with it, because that's the whole point.
Yeah. And I think, the way that we look at acting, from an outsider's perspective, is you really only hear about the big actors. And that, you hear stories of them picking and choosing what they want to do. And it gives this false sense of that's how I should look at it. But, 99.9% of actors aren't, millionaires making big movies. They're just trying to get by.
It's the people who do 2 co-stars a year and are like, hey, I made it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're making a living on it somehow.
Yeah. As long as as long as I can make a living doing something, I don't need to be a millionaire. I don't need all this stuff. That'd be great. It's a great added perk.
Of course.
But it's something you got to have a passion for. And I think with that comes, I just love being on set. I don't care what it is. I love being around filmmaking. So it's if you want to get an extra role, or even when I did the Quest, the day I got back, or maybe the next day, the next job I did was I was a background extra in a commercial for a local casino. Like I was
I
right
mean, yeah.
back on set. I was not like, well, I've been the lead in a Disney Plus show. Now I'm above these things. Like, no, I just wanted to be back on a set.
I mean, yeah, they are addicting. It's a major adrenaline rush. Like
Yeah,
major
exactly.
adrenaline rush. It's yeah, I mean, let's talk about the quest a little bit because this is such an interesting concept.
Mhm.
I personally have acted in some immersive theater shows.
Mhm.
So I want to know what it's like to be in an immersive television show.
Yeah, it is very. It was. It's hard to explain like getting onto it and how you perform in it because it still like terrifies me to even think about, even though I did it all. It's I'll kind of break it down from a script perspective first. When we get the scripts for the episodes, it looks like a regular script, except there are portions where it'll have in big black letters, uh, reality break. And that
Mm.
what that means is pretty much we have a script, and there's probably a good 50 to 60% of the show that doesn't have any reality stuff, or like the teenagers that are in the show, they're called paladins. A good 50% of the show doesn't have them in it, and it's a
Mm.
scripted regular story. So on the day they just kind of the kids will come in, and we have that point A and point B, and we just got to improvise with them.
Which is very like Curb Your Enthusiasm
Yes.
type of acting where it's like, here's the outline, get there.
Yeah, and yeah, I can remember like on the first day of shooting, we did kind of like an introductory thing, and it was interesting because of the way it was shot, with these non-actors being a part of the show. We had to do everything chronologically, so it made sense in their head. So it was like the first day
Oh,
of
that's
shooting.
nice.
Yeah, and they were coming in. It was like their first introduction into the world. And I think one of the best parts of the show is that it's described as like a hybrid reality show, but I think a better term is like immersive series, or like
Yeah, no, it is. It's an immersive
yeah,
television show. It's putting these people into a real like situation and saying figure it out. It's like playing oh, what's it called? When you like dress up and you have like the character and the whole thing.
like cosplay.
Yeah, it's like a cosplay
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, and it was more like, especially from our perspective, it was more just like a scripted series that utilized improv. Like it
Yeah.
was, and in the way that when people watch it, like there's no reality show like tropes at all. It's
Mhm.
shot like we have the producers from Lord of the Rings, so it's shot
Wow.
cinematically, with the cinematic cameras, aspect ratio, like it looks like it's Lord of the Rings, and there's no elimination, so there's no drama. Like
Oh, that's nice.
there's no like producer interviews where it's
So there's no elimination. So then it is kind of like cosplay where it's like there's a campaign where you have to like
yeah,
get to the end of it.
yeah. I think the best way to describe it is the plot of the show is that 8 people come into our world. Like it's like just the
That's
plot of the show.
cool.
It's and that's why I think it's something that's never really been done before. Like I've never seen something where
No.
it utilizes like the reality of people that aren't actors being in the show, but it's like not a reality show. It's a scripted
Mm-hmm.
story. But back to what I was saying, there was a kid who came in on the first day, and they kind of start asking us questions, and we have some like scripted responses for certain questions.
Yeah.
But he comes in and he says, "So have you guys heard of K-pop? Like what do you guys know about BTS?" And we're
And you
sitting
have to
there,
be like, I don't know what you're saying.
yeah, we're sitting there in like medieval clothes in a throne room in a castle, speaking in British dialects, and this kid just throws BTS, and we kind of just have to respond and be like, I don't know what that is,
Yep.
and so like stuff like that was always happening where they'd throw a curveball at us, and we kind of just had to adapt.
It's interesting. So I was in this show called Delusion. It's this like interactive horror show in LA. And we'd have audience members come through, and we'd have, it's this long scripted show, but obviously it's the same thing where it's like they'd start to throw curveballs at you,
Yeah.
where it's like, we'd be like, find this, and they'd pull out their cell phone with the flashlight, and it's supposed to be like 1930s Louisiana, and then all of a sudden you have to be like, what is this? Like, what is this contraption you have in your hand? Like, it's interesting to have to be in that immersive world, but it's such a fun exercise as an actor.
Yeah. I felt like I was kind of thrown in the deep end of acting with it. 'Cause it was my first big thing that I had ever done, and it was like, so you're gonna act, for millions of people on Disney Plus, but also we're gonna test your improv skills in front of a world audience. And I hated doing improv in theater and high school and all that. So it was it was a big test for me. But yeah, and we had to improvise at all time, like, because they wanted to keep the illusion up. Like, we would do breakdowns and stuff, and do, change cameras and stuff, and they would kind of just stop everything and tell the kids to pause. But we, as the actors, had to stay in character. So, like, if they talked to us while we were waiting, and they were like, so what are these guys doing? And we were like, oh, they're just the servants. They're just messing around. Those goofy servants with that big beard thing. Like, it was, I think we finally broke character after we said cut on, like, the last shot that they had. And
amazing.
It was so strange. But for a good 2 months, every time I saw these kids, I had to talk in a British dialect, pretend I was Prince Emmett.
So, I mean, normally on the show, I would ask you to share like a crazy audition story, but I feel like there has to be a wild audition story behind this.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to ask you to share this one.
Yeah. So, I think it's really interesting because I had representation at this time, and he was sending me out on auditions and, whatever I could get with my lack of credits. But I was still scrolling Actors Access and submitting myself at the same time. And I came across a breakdown on Actors Access that was titled Untitled Adventure Show for Undisclosed Streaming Service. And
gee, how specific.
Yeah. And I remember reading the breakdown, and it said British dialect is required. And I had never done, like, I've done Scottish and Irish, and, like, I played Gomez on the Addams Family. So I got a bunch of different ones, but I'd never done British. And I was like, I don't want to send in something British that I've never done. It's going to be embarrassing. And I scrolled past it. But then the next day I was scrolling on Actors Access again, and I saw it again. And I was like, well, I audition for anything I can. I'm going to audition for it anyway, or submit myself anyways. And so I got an audition. I remember I did it, and I hated it. I thought it was really bad. But I was like, I'll send it in anyways, whatever. And about a month later, I got some C-mail about it. They wanted me to read a different script because the ones they had sent me initially were dummy sides. I still didn't know what it was. It was still just Untitled Adventure Show. And I was like, okay, that sounds good. I was actually in LA for my birthday. And I remember thinking, like, I thought my first one was bad. Like, I don't really know that I want to read for this because I'm bad. Like, I was embarrassed to read for it. I was like, I just think I'm going to embarrass myself. And I almost considered not doing it. But because it's one of those things where it was untitled streaming service, and I kind of got in my own head, and I was like, there's no way I'm going to book something this big anyways. Like, it's not going to be, like, I just shouldn't even try. But casting reached out to me, and they were like, we really like you. We want to make sure that you're going to read for this. And that really surprised me. So I immediately...
That's amazing.
I went home, and I taped for it again with different sides. And then they contacted me to tape again for a different character. And then they had me do a Zoom audition where I read those sides, and then another Zoom audition where I read the other character. And they told me I was in the mix for both. And I was like, well, that's cool. If I just get to this point, whatever this show is, I'm in the mix. That's awesome. And then I got to my final audition. I get an email, and they say, we want to do another Zoom call back with the producer from the show. but this time he's going to improvise with you in the audition. And I was terrified. I was like, oh my God, this is where it ends. This is where it just doesn't happen for me. So I go and I set everything up, and I start reading, and he doesn't even really warn me much. It's kind of just like he starts reading the scripted sides, and then he just goes off script. He's one of our producers. His name's Chris Osborne, and he's a friend of mine now. But when in the audition, they kind of warned me about it, but it was just like he just went off the script and started improvising, and I had to catch up. And I surprisingly think I did really well. I remember ending that call afterwards and being like, I am surprised by myself. I thought that was pretty good. And I had a good feeling about it. And then I was told I was still in the mix, and my manager called me maybe 2 days later and was like, hey, so I just got an offer for you to be a lead in a Disney Plus series. Congrats, buddy. And I was like, whoa, okay. And it was huge. I was like, I freaked out. And then from there, I talked to the producers, and they talked to me through kind of what the show was. And there was a previous iteration of the show that was a bit more, reality focused. And they were like, we want to really try something new with this. We're going to really hit the ground running with something that's never been done before. And after that, we went and shot it. And now I'm here talking to you.
Oh my God, I'm so excited to watch this. I think it's going to be so fun. I hope you guys get to do more seasons, because I think it's like such a freaking cool idea. So I'm so excited to watch. This is coming out May 12th, so it will be out already, but May 11th, everybody should go onto Disney Plus right now and go watch The Quest. Do that right this second. It has been a pleasure talking to you, and I'm very excited to see what you do next, and I hope you guys get to do more episodes. Is there anything else you wanted to sneak in before we part ways?
I will sneak in. I'm currently in Vancouver right now, and I'm shooting season 2 of Cruel Summer, which is a show for Freeform, and it will also be on Hulu. And be on the lookout for that. I'm pretty sure by the time this comes out, there'll be a cast announcement, so I'm not breaking any rules about casting here. But yeah, be on the lookout for that. I'm having fun in Vancouver, and I think it's going to be a fun show. Everyone should tune into that as well when it comes out. Heck
yes. And where can everyone follow you on social media to stay up to date on things?
You can find me at Braeden De La Garza, so BraedenDL Garza, on pretty much all of my social medias. And I try to post as much as I can. I'm not the best about it.
It's probably for the better.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again so much. It was so fun talking to you, and I can't wait to watch The Quest.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you again to Braeden for coming on the show. We had quite the time trying to get this episode done. So thanks for hanging in there with me, bud. Everybody should go watch The Quest. It is out now. It came out today. I recorded a day early, so it came out yesterday for you, to those who are listening. But it's out on Disney Plus. Go watch it. I am so excited to see it. And Braeden, I wish you all the best, and I cannot wait to see what you do. And as always, everybody, thank you for tuning in, for keeping the show up and running and going. Help a girl out, leave some love, do the whole ratings thing and those beautiful stars and reviews. I don't know how to say this. I feel awkward every time. Anyway, love you all, and make sure you're subscribed to the show wherever you're listening to it right now. And as always, thanks for coming in.
Contained herein are the heresies of Radolf Buntwine, erstwhile monk turned traveling medical investigator. Join me as I study the secrets of the divine plagues and uncover the blasphemous truth that ours is not a loving God, and we are not its favored children. The heresies of Radolf Buntwine, wherever podcasts are available.